Right now, Microsoft is in a little bit of a weird predicament, and I want to say this real quick. So, we don't know for sure what Microsoft is going to do when it comes to next generation. They could come out with a traditional console. They could come out with, a traditional console and also have OEM Xbox branded PCs. That would kind of go in line with what they're trying to do. They might very well just do a OEM Xbox that's really a PC. Well, we don't really know. I think that if they do come out with a traditional console, the time to maybe call out all the insiders and things like that should be at hand, because they're the ones that are leading a lot of the discourse. The reason why so many people are upset with Xbox is because, if you go with a PC that's just called an Xbox, at that point it's an open platform, and that's probably not going to sell very well due to a number of factors, including price. But if you have multiple stores on there, you obviously aren't going to be able to do anything in terms of subsidizing your hardware. So that would be a very bad thing indeed. And I think a lot of people don't want to see that. Again, I don't think there would be a large flock of Steam gamers who would want to buy basically a PC that you can't upgrade, and it would already be pretty underpowered, considering what a lot of PC gamers are getting. On the other hand, you have console gamers who probably wouldn't be too interested in, just the kind of nonsense that's involved with a lot of PC gaming. But, this isn't really about that. There is a warning out right now. When I get into this, what's up, everyone? I'm Crab Gamer. This is Crab Gamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you for checking it out. I certainly appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, and I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel. It means a lot to me personally. I do daily gaming content, so if you guys knew who that guy is, that's me. Again, it's really just such a strange world, that we're seeing right now. I really hope that you guys enjoy the content. I try to be fun yet informative, so that is something that is always on the docket. Now, again, we're getting these kind of warnings that Microsoft is going to be in a weird situation where they're going to maybe do something that other gamers don't like. But here's the thing: Microsoft did a good job of building up their reputation and things like that. They had a previous reputation of like not letting developers develop the kind of games they wanted, closing down developers, not giving them chances and things like that. They promised that they wouldn't be doing a bunch of layoffs after they bought Activision, and all that stuff has like been realistically a lie at this particular point. The game industry itself has seen a lot of layoffs over the past few years, a consequence largely of an overextended industry. Again, it wasn't all the bubble was going to burst at some point. There's also some terrible strategic decisions involved in there, from some fairly misguided notions about likely productivity impacts. You also had a lot of studios buying into, like the whole Sweet Baby Int thing. Instead of like worrying about checking boxes, like I think a lot of these studios should have been worried about, is our game fun? Is it approachable? Things like that. I think that should have been the most important thing, not, okay, well, did we check all these boxes and okay, that's the game, right? Because so many games that have come out that do check boxes are just bad games. It's not that people, hate them just because of that reason. It's because they're just bad games. Projects die, studios are shuttered, and reputations, both corporate and personal, are, left in tatters at times. It sounds like pretty much the worst case scenario for a company to end up in. Microsoft is teeing up, according to multiple reports, it looks like as soon as tomorrow, to do another large round of layoffs. Thousands of people potentially. It's going to fall heavily on the Xbox division. Now, why this is a problem is because Microsoft was recently called out, and they were called out for not shipping games on time, not having the ability and the amount of people you need to ship these games on time and things like that. And she mentioned, and she used to work at Xbox. She left towards the tail end of the 360, and I did a video about her as well. But What was interesting was she was talking about how good Xbox was at that, and I can remember at a time where Forza Motorsport came out every other year, Forza Horizon came out on those off years. You had a Gears every 3 years, a Halo every 3 years. It's like you had these things kind of locked down, and now it's like you have stuff that was announced 6 years ago and still hasn't even seen any gameplay for, and now you're starting to be multi-platform, and you don't have the people to facilitate that, and now you're also laying off thousands of people on top of that. So it's really, really a bad situation for Microsoft. What makes it worse than regular layoff situation is that this is apparently common knowledge across the business community, widely reported in the press, all before those being targeted and cuts have received any notification. So you have a bunch of people working at Xbox, sees the news, hey, there's going to be a big round of layoffs at Xbox, and then so you have these people wondering if they're going to have a job tomorrow, right? That's not a good work environment, especially for Microsoft, who claims to be so about the workers and this and that and the other thing. So yeah, it's a really, really strange situation. By all accounts, as everyone is very anxious to find out whether they're going to have a job or not, or even if their studio is going to close. After so many rounds of layoffs at so many companies, Microsoft fresh rounds of cuts does feel especially upsetting because of what's potentially going to be cut, namely staff from companies that Microsoft has spent close to $100 billion acquiring over the last few years. Of course, assembling a new Xbox publishing arm and studio system through a long series of acquisitions, including two major publishers, ZeniMax and Activision, along with a number of studios and smaller firms, was always going to result in some overlapping functionality that would be trimmed. There are efficiencies always talked about in announcements of mergers and acquisition. These cuts, however, have surely gone well past identifying such efficiencies, especially if the rumored scale to upcoming layoffs is anything close to being accurate. A lot of commentators talking about these rumors express bafflement about the logic behind buying up companies only to tear through them with layoffs. In this instant, the bafflement is entirely fair. So Microsoft does this to themselves a lot of times as well. Slashing through these companies with the machete risks entirely destroying the value of the studios it paid such a high price for only a few years ago, and feels incredibly short-sighted at best, especially given the ambitious and difficult path Xbox is determined to launch into with its console and platform strategy in the coming years, much of which relies implicitly on the idea of Microsoft will continue to strengthen its position as a publisher. The whole situation recalls an earlier era of the industry, the decade or so in which EA was on a massive acquisition spree, buying up legendary studio after legendary studio, but gained an incredibly negative reputation for utterly destroying the value in everything it acquired, Westwood, Bullfrog, Mythic, and Pandemic being among a few of them. EA spent a long time trying to turn it around. It recognized that you simply can't stay on top of a rapidly evolving industry if everyone from studio bosses to the dogs in the street view your acquisition activities as a kiss of death. Microsoft isn't quite there yet, and hopefully it won't get there, but it wouldn't take that much of mismanagement or that many studio closures for its reputation to hit the same kind of negative skid. This is a different situation of how acquisitions usually work in the tech industry, where it's fairly common practice to buy up a lot of small companies simply to get your hands on key technologies or staff members. Game studios don't work like that. They're creative teams producing widely loved and closely followed consumer products, and they require a very different management style to ensure that they thrive after an acquisition. Who wants to sit there and constantly worried if you're going to be closed down or if you're going to even have a job? There is valid concern over whether there are enough people in decision-making positions within Microsoft who are aware of things like how damaging EA's era as the industry's angel of death was to that company, or what's at risk if Microsoft ends up being tarred with that brush. Just think about this. A handful of years ago, Ubisoft was looked at as a darling of the industry. Now everybody hates Ubisoft. They can't get games shipped. The games that they do ship are pretty terrible. And so, yeah, we have a lot of that going in there. So it looks like Xbox could be in for a bit of a bumpy ride going on. And, that's going to be like a super negative thing going forward. You have to be able to go out there and say, hey, we're going to let these people have, some slack. We're a $3 trillion company. And, and listen, if you don't want, that, then don't buy the companies. Don't buy the studios. Like, it's really that simple in my opinion. I'm not sure how else anybody can say it, but quite honestly, uh, to me anyway, it's quite clear that if you're Microsoft, how can you even not give these companies, like I was surprised with the Hi-Fi Rush situation. Like that was a game that really spoke to people, and even though it didn't sell great, it got you a lot of clout and things like that. Oh, maybe Microsoft has changed, and then they closed them down. And same thing with Redfall. Like they didn't want the studio didn't want to release Redfall. Microsoft allowed it. They knew what it was, and then they closed down the studio. Right? Like I think what's happening to Microsoft is all on Microsoft. But I'll link this. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.